The shimmering turquoise of my backyard pool, a sanctuary I'd built with my own two hands and a significant chunk of my savings, had become a battlefield. It all started with a letter, the kind of official-looking document that makes your stomach clench. It was from the HOA, the Homeowners Association, the self-proclaimed arbiters of suburban harmony. The letter was a notice of violation, and the violation was a head-scratcher: unauthorized use of a personal amenity. My first thought was that it had to be a mistake. I reread the dense bureaucratic language: a fine of $50 per day, retroactive to the date of the supposed infraction. What infraction? My pool was my pool. I'd built it with all the proper permits, passed every inspection. I'd hosted a small, quiet gathering for my niece's birthday a few weeks prior. Could that be it? But the letter was vague, citing only the unauthorized use. It felt personal, targeted. The HOA president, a woman named Beverly, was the likely culprit. Everyone called her HOA Karen, not just behind her back, but sometimes to her face, a title she wore with a strange mixture of pride and indignation. She was the kind of person who saw rules not as guidelines, but as weapons to be wielded. Her gaze, a perpetual squint of disapproval, seemed to find fault in everything. My perfectly manicured lawn was too green. My tasteful porch lights were too bright. My life, it seemed, was an affront to her sense of order. I called the HOA office, a sterile, beige room in the community center, and was met with a wall of procedural jargon from a harried-sounding secretary. "Ms. Anderson, the violation notice is based on a complaint received. We cannot disclose the complainant's identity. The fine stands." She spoke in a monotone, as if she'd recited this exact script 1,000 times before. The complaint was anonymous, of course, a coward's move. But I knew. It had to be Beverly. I decided to confront her directly. I walked over to her house, a perfectly symmetrical monument to beigeness, and rang the doorbell. She opened the door, her face a mask of practiced politeness that didn't quite reach her cold eyes. "Beverly," I began, trying to keep my voice even, "I received a fine for using my own pool. Can you explain this to me?" She folded her arms across her chest, a classic power pose. "The bylaws are very clear, Mr. Harrison. All recreational amenities must be approved for use by the HOA board. My pool is a personal amenity. It's in my backyard. It's not a community pool." She gave a small, condescending smile. "The bylaws do not differentiate between personal and community amenities when it comes to the safety and well-being of the entire community. There were reports of excessive noise and a large gathering. The pool area was not properly secured." "The gate was locked," I countered, my frustration growing. "And it was a family birthday party. We were out by 9 o'clock. The bylaws state that all pool gates must be self-latching and have a specific type of lock," she said, her voice dripping with self-satisfaction. "Your lock, Mr. Harrison, was a standard padlock. We have an approved list of pool security measures. You failed to comply." That was the moment the anger solidified into something hard and unyielding inside me. This wasn't about safety. This wasn't about noise. This was a power play, a petty display of control. The lock, a padlock. Something so utterly insignificant had become the legal justification for her meddling. I walked back to my house, the anger a hot furnace in my chest. I looked at my pool, the crystal-clear water now seeming to mock me. They fined me for using my own pool? For a violation that felt invented out of spite? A new thought began to form, a mischievous, rebellious idea. If the HOA wanted to control my pool, if they wanted to declare it unauthorized and unsecured, then fine, they could have it. But not in the way they imagined. I went to the hardware store, but not for a new HOA-approved lock. I bought a heavy-duty industrial-grade chain and a padlock so large it looked like it belonged on a bank vault. I also bought a large laminated sign. That evening, as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across my lawn, I went to work. I wrapped the chain around the gateposts of my pool fence, then secured it with the massive padlock, The sign, emblazoned with bright red lettering, was the finishing touch. It read, "Pool closed, due to HOA violation. Restricted access, forced entry is trespassing. B. Harrison, homeowner." I stood back, admiring my handiwork. The chain was a defiant symbol, the sign, a public declaration of war. I felt a surge of satisfaction, but it was quickly followed by a pang of sadness. My sanctuary, my personal oasis, was now a prison. I had locked myself out, but in doing so, I had also locked everyone else out, especially Beverly. The next day, I saw her walking her tiny yapping dog past my house. She stopped, her eyes widening as she read the sign. Her perfect manicured face twisted into a scowl. I watched from my living room window, a small, grim smile on my face. She tried to rattle the chain, her fingers fumbling with the heavy links. The sound was a harsh, metallic protest. She couldn't get in. No one could. My pool was secure, all right. Impossibly secure. The next HOA letter arrived 3 days later. This one was even more absurd. Violation. Failure to maintain a community amenity. The fine was now $75 per day. The letter accused me of willful neglect of a pool that was now a potential breeding ground for mosquitoes and a public eyesore. The audacity was breathtaking. They had fined me for using it. Now they were fining me for not using it. The sheer hypocrisy of it all was almost comical. They had declared my pool an HOA problem, and now they were mad that I had treated it like one. I didn't call the HOA this time. I didn't write a letter. I simply let the new fine accumulate. I had a new plan, a different kind of defiance. I went online and ordered a heavy-duty, custom-made pool cover. Not a simple solar cover, but a thick, opaque vinyl cover that sealed the entire surface. It would be a barrier, a statement. The cover arrived a week later. With the help of a neighbor who found the whole situation hilarious, we unrolled the massive sheet of vinyl and stretched it taut over the pool, securing it with straps and anchors. The turquoise water was gone, replaced by a smooth, dark surface. The pool was no longer an eyesore. It was just a patch of dark vinyl in my backyard. It was now truly unseen. The third letter from the HOA was a masterpiece of legal gibberish. It was a notice of intent to abate and charge. It informed me that since I had failed to maintain the pool to HOA standards, they would now be sending in a crew to remediate the situation. This meant they would drain the pool, fill it with dirt, and then fine me for the cost of the labor. All because I had locked my own pool. All because I had covered my own pool. I knew this was the nuclear option. This was their last desperate attempt to assert control. They were threatening to destroy something I loved, something I had built, all to make a point. They had pushed me too far. I decided to fight back, not with more defiance, but with a weapon they didn't expect, their own bylaws. I had read the rule book cover to cover, and I had found something. A loophole. A beautiful, glorious, Beverly-busting loophole. The bylaws defined a swimming pool as a permanent structure containing water and intended for recreational use. The key phrase was containing water. I had a plan. I waited until the HOA's appointed remediation day. I saw the truck pull up, a couple of burly guys in orange vests looking at my chained-up covered pool with confusion. Beverly was there too, standing on the sidewalk, watching with a triumphant sneer. I walked out to meet them, a clipboard in my hand and a calm smile on my face. "Gentlemen," I said, "I believe you're here to remediate my pool?" They nodded, looking at me skeptically. "I have a few questions before you begin," I continued, my voice friendly but firm. "Do you have the approved work order?" They produced a document, and I scanned it, nodding slowly. "And the definition of a swimming pool, as per the HOA bylaws, is a permanent structure containing water and intended for recreational use, correct?" Beverly's scowl deepened. "What does that have to do with anything?" I ignored her. "Well, my friends," I said to the workers, I'm afraid you have a bit of a problem. You see, this is no longer a swimming pool. I walked over to the side of the pool, where I had attached a garden hose to a small pump. With a flick of a switch, a thin stream of water began to spray over the side of the pool, a trickle that would take days to have any effect. "This is now a pond," I announced, gesturing to the barely flowing water. "A decorative pond. I've been cultivating a unique breed of pond algae for a research project. The bylaws are very clear. They have rules for swimming pools. They have rules for fences. They have rules for lawns, but they have no rules for ponds. A pond, as you know, is not intended for recreational use. It is a natural, albeit constructed, water feature. You can't fill in a pond." The workers looked at each other, then at Beverly, who was sputtering with rage. "That's ridiculous! You're just trying to get out of the fine!" "The fine is for a swimming pool violation," I said, holding up my clipboard. "This is not a swimming pool. It's a pond. And as a good neighbor, I've secured it, covered it, and have been maintaining it for a very important scientific study. You can't just come and fill in someone's pond. That's a different kind of legal battle entirely, isn't it?" I smiled sweetly at Beverly. The bylaws were her weapon, and I had turned it against her. I had taken her own rules, her own definitions, and used them to create a new reality. My pool was no longer a pool. It was a pond. It was no longer a symbol of my freedom, but a testament to my resilience. And it was all because of a padlock. The irony was not lost on me. The workers, seeing the legal quagmire they were about to step into, packed up their tools and drove away. Beverly stood there, defeated, her perfect beige world crumbling around her. She had won the battle over my pool, but I had won the war. I had taken away her ability to control it, to fine me for it, to even call it a pool. My pool, my sanctuary, was now a pond, and it was mine, all mine, and I wouldn't have to pay a single fine. The story of HOA Karen and the ridiculous fine was over, but a new story had just begun. The story of the man and his secret, locked-up, beautiful pond. And I had a feeling Beverly would never look at a body of water the same way again.